Hello, everyone. Today we're talking about a very unfortunate event. It appears as if someone who attempted to and successfully stopped someone who was on a potential shooting spree after killing a cop was then shot by the police. We're going to try to do our best to not Monday night quarterback this too hard, but we are going to kind of talk about this, about what we can learn and what we can kind of learn from this moving forward. But let's kind of get into the meat and potatoes of this. But before we do, I do want to say thank you to everyone that supports me through whatever means it is, whether it's liking, commenting, subscribing. YouTube left me a note on my creator dashboard that they recently deleted a whole lot of spam accounts. So if you were one of those spam accounts, double check and make sure that you are still subscribed, because that's something that they said they have done recently and will continue to do so over the next week or so. So if we look at this article, Good Samaritan who died in Arvada shooting was shot by police. So the basics of what happened was some dude who hates cops went out and left a note threatening cops, then proceeded to go and kill a cop. A bystander who was armed, a good guy with a gun, responded to the incident, stopped and killed and shot the guy who was trying to actually kill cops and successfully did kill a cop. The police arrived after and then shot him. Now, a lot of times when people who are anti-gun, they bring up the idea of a good guy with a gun, they're like, oh, it's just going to add to the confusion and it's just going to get you killed. That is something that doesn't really negate our side of the argument, but it's something to consider. Now, this good guy with a gun, absolute hero. There's really no other way to put it. But someone wanted to bring up some topics about the kind of person he was. They said that the good guy with a gun was a right-wing anarcho-capitalist who hated cops and self-identified as a right-wing extremist, who hated vaccines, COVID shutdowns, taxes, but loved weed, cryptocurrencies, and conspiracy theories. He often posted memes and was Boogaloo adjacent, but I haven't found any indication that he was ever a Boogaloo participant. Now, here's the deal. I think this guy is a perfect example of how you can dislike policing and the institution and the government as a whole without actually hating cops as an individual. And I think that's something that when I talk about my criticisms of police, I think many people kind of get confused and think that you're either all cops are bastards, let's defund the police, abolish all police completely, or you're sucking the leather out of a cop's boot. There is somewhere in the middle that I think I exist. And I think you can kind of look at this and say, you can be against police action as a whole when it comes to what the government tells them to do and then what those individuals choose to do. But a cop on any given basis is just a normal person. Normal people fall on a spectrum of good or bad, and somewhere in the middle. Most cops are probably like most people and fall somewhere in the middle. They probably aren't all the way this way. They probably aren't all the way this way, generally. This is a perfect example of why I think that we might need more police training. I think that there is probably a whole lot that goes on with every aspect of government work when it comes to mismanaging this, but here's a situation where the cops showed up and immediately took action, which in some cases is the right thing to do, but in this case, the good guy who defended or attempted to defend the life of cops and killed the guy who was killing people, the good guy with a gun, was killed by the police. I think this is just one of many examples where people have been killed by police, where if we had given them more access to training, we could have potentially stopped this. Now, obviously, we don't live in a world of sunshine and rainbows, and there's a lot of difficulty that goes on with things, and there's always going to be something that bad happens somewhere at some point in time. We're never going to live in a fairy tale land where everything is perfect. But I think there's a huge opportunity for us to kind of look at this and say, hey, do we think that cops that were defunded completely and had no training would have reacted better? Well, probably not. And that's a loaded question. I'm sure there's some sort of argumentative fallacy within what I just said. But we can also look and say, hey, if we gave cops better training, if we gave them better information, better ability to use their skills, potentially we could save more lives. I don't know if that's a really hard thing to argue against. I think that'd be pretty hard to argue against. I think many people would believe that the people that we are trusting to walk around with guns to be the ones that are intended to go into bad situations, I think those are the kind of people we want to give more money. But I think the big question that this brings up is you and me, the average person who might conceal carry a firearm. Maybe you're walking around with your little LCP2, maybe you're walking around with your backpack body armor or your full plate carrier and an AR-15 doing one of your Second Amendment audits, if you think that's a good idea. But let's say you carry a gun. I'm sure you probably have been asked, well, what if the police show up and then they think you're the bad guy? I think that is a good topic to bring up. Someone mentioned that there have been instances before where there's been shootings going on and someone armed with a firearm chose to, instead of going and seeking out that action, they chose to protect the people right next to them or within their vicinity. And I think that's something that you might need to consider, because how well are the cops trained in your area? Do you think they're well trained enough to respond to a situation of absolute and complete chaos? Are you trained well enough to be able to walk through a situation like that and, first of all, just not get killed by the bad guy, but then also look and act the part and be able to maneuver without getting killed by the police who are responding to an active shooter situation? Now, if you're like me, white, male, with dark hair and brown eyes, if I was walking around with a gun, I would probably look like a very large proportion of the population. Now, if the description that they gave was a not overweight white dude with a gun, probably a black gun like a pistol, and that's the active shooter they're looking for, I think you would kind of find yourself in a situation where, hey, cops might think you're the killer, and that would be perfectly accurate for them to think so. And I think that's why I think a lot of people kind of you gotta think about this. Don't live your life in total fear about, oh, what if something happened right now? But just kind of like, you can kind of prepare yourself and have a general mindset of how you're going to respond. Do you think you're well prepared enough to handle it? I'm just asking questions. I'm not necessarily saying what you need to do to get to certain levels to be able to handle certain situations. Because again, we're not Monday night quarterbacking this too hard. We're doing it a little bit. I'm not saying that he did anything right or wrong. I think as the investigation goes forward, we'll kind of be able to learn more from this. It seems as if this police department in Denver doesn't actually have body cameras, so unfortunately we won't probably get the best information about how John Hurley, the actual good guy with a gun, died. But I've heard some rumblings about there potentially being a GoFundMe. I personally have not had the chance yet to vet those to make sure they're all good. But if someone finds a GoFundMe that is confirmed, vetted for this guy, for his family, whatever it is, feel free to send that to me. I'll put that in the description. I'd love to be able to support, because this is just a very unfortunate situation. People should not have to be in this situation, but unfortunately, it's kind of, things happen sometimes. At the end of the day, though, I think you all need to take the time to reflect on your own skills, your own preparedness. What do you bring with you? What do you carry with you up here? There's a lot more than just having a body armor panel in your backpack with a pistol in it. I would love to be able to support this guy's GoFundMe if there is one, but unfortunately, John Hurley was unfortunately killed by the police, and that's tragic. What can we do to prevent this? We don't really know yet, but at the end of the day, you guys know the drill. Have fun, be safe, stay dangerous. Peace. I want to say thank you to everyone again. You guys have been a huge support. This channel over the last month, kind of ups and downs, and right now we're coming back up. We're slingshotting back up into the good spot. We were demonetized, some kind of shit happened with that, and we're back in a good position now. The support from you guys has been incredible. Channel's been doing great lately, been uploading a lot more consistently, and I'm just so thankful to have all of your support, because again, I'm just a guy in front of a camera in his office talking about guns, talking about self-defense, talking about politics occasionally. You guys know the drill, though. Thank you. I really appreciate your support.